If you're a facilities manager at a university, you know students rely on the cafeteria for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and the occasional late-night snack. So when a dishwasher breaks down and dirty plates pile up, the mess hall can turn messy in the blink of an eye. Enter Grainger. With over 1 million industrial-grade products and fast delivery, the product you need now is never far away. So you can turn that dishwasher back into a lean, clean washing machine. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
You're listening to Sweep the League.
Hey, this is George Iceman Gervin, and you're listening to Sweep the League Radio.
As you can tell, Sweep the League is back after a few days off. I had a little bit of an illness going on. Shout out to the mask on there for letting us know what's going on there, being sick and all. But yeah, I had a little bit of illness going on past couple of days. We are back. We're a little late, obviously. We have to cover some Super Bowl stuff, but also the San Antonio Spurs struggling out the gates after the De'Aaron Fox trade. Are we going to go all in on the big rant for the San Antonio Spurs? Well, of course, ask the man himself, Derek Gervin, here in just a little bit. Also, a lot of NFL news coming out. We're going to talk a little bit about the Super Bowl, talk a little bit about the NFL news coming out, and also, are we going into the future a little bit? Are we going to take a little glimpse? Now, the cool thing is that Sweep the League, we call a lot of stuff. You know, it happens from time to time. We get lucky. But will something else happen here? We're going to bring that up later on. It involves another quarterback. We're going to get it going here. We've got a full cast tonight. Let's bring on the guys here. Hall of Famer Derek Gervin, also Coach Gio. Derek, welcome back, man. It's been a little bit of a time since you've been out, but you've hopefully you're back for a while here.
Well, hopefully you guys can hear me, man. It's been a while. Hopefully I'm not delayed or anything. It's been hard to figure out my problem. Even my phone service has been having problems figuring it out. So hopefully tonight will be good. What's up, Gio?
What's up, Derek? How you doing?
Good.
Yeah, well, I'm glad Derek's back. We got some major issues on the NBA side. Now Coach Gio's back. He's here to pay tribute to what could have been a three-peat in the Super Bowl, as the Kansas City Chiefs could not get it done as they do in the kitchen. Philadelphia Eagles win the Super Bowl and win it outright, 24-0 at halftime. I looked at the halftime score and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. 24-0, man. Gentlemen, let's go over the Super Bowl here. Super Bowl 59. Eagles is dominated from start to finish. Anything that you guys saw in this Super Bowl that was concerning for Kansas City? Because it's weird, Gio, Derek. You know, Derek and I, Gio, were talking about this in the beginning of the year. We felt like this Kansas City team wasn't the same team. They proved it all year. I mean, they had the best record in the NFL, second best record in the NFL. So, I mean, they got to the Super Bowl, but when they got up against the Eagles, I don't ever think I've seen Mahomes that rattled. I just don't know what went wrong. But before we go to Derek, Gio, the Eagles and Chiefs, I mean, seems to be the Kansas City Chiefs that Derek and I were talking about all year.
Yeah, I mean, it was a team watching them that they look unrecognizable. I mean, you're watching those first few drives, and Kansas City couldn't get anything going, and then the offensive line collapsed. This is an offensive line, especially at tackle. Last year, I was surprised they won the Super Bowl, honestly, because their tackles struggled. They had to move Tooney from guard over to tackle because of some injuries, and this has been an offensive line that they've been able to skim through. But one thing I was surprised was, and I told y'all through text, the Chiefs did not run the football. They didn't establish the running game. And Kareem Hunt through the playoffs has been pretty consistent in getting those yards, what they need. You also have Isaiah Pacheco. Guys, they didn't even – 3 carries in the first half was very disappointing for Kansas City. And then their defense actually didn't play that bad. Unfortunately, what happened was Mahomes threw an interception. He threw that pick six, and he threw that one interception, guys, literally right there on his 10-yard line. It was just unrecognizable for the Chiefs. Kudos to the Philadelphia Eagles. I did say, Rudy, at the beginning of the year, watch out for the Philadelphia Eagles. I know y'all weren't sold just yet because of some of the personalities they have on the team. But as I said, if Nick Sirianni can balance everyone out, they get Saquon Barkley in his prime. I thought to myself, that's going to be a tough team to beat. And little did I know, they were going to go on to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, Derek, Super Bowl thoughts, brother? Eagles and Chiefs, man.
Well, I mean, for me, it was pure domination from the beginning. Offensive line of the Eagles, defensive line of the Eagles pretty much summed up the game. They dominated on both sides of the ball, all three phases, actually. And they just look like the better team. I think Kansas City had a great year, but I think they ran into a buzzsaw, and the better team won.
The better team did win. Philadelphia does beat the Chiefs in Super Bowl 59. Quick question, starting with Derek and over to Gio. Last thoughts on the Kansas City's Philadelphia rivalry here this season? And the Eagles repeat? We'll start off with Derek. Can the Eagles repeat, Derek?
Well, they're young, so I would say going into the new year, I would think yes. Have a lot of young guys on that offense and defense, and I think after this year, they're only going to continue to get better. So, yeah, I'd say they can repeat, yes.
I think they got a golden opportunity. As Derek said, they're a young team. Looking at that defensive front, I mean, man, talk about collapsing the pocket with Carter and Davis and Owen Smith. Hey, guys, they're all from the University of where, Derek? From Georgia. They had so many guys up front.
University of Georgia.
And they drafted Keely Ringo as well. The Dogs were in full effect. And don't forget, Rudy, their linebacker, who was out for the rest of the playoffs. He was hurt. Who's the other Georgia Bulldog they drafted at linebacker?
Jalen Carter?
No. His on the top of my head. But anyway,
Kobe Dean.
Another dog who was actually hurt heading into the Super Bowl. So they have him. They have a young team, but you guys know how it is trying to repeat. It is difficult because now the guns are flying. And one thing I also want to note, the only team who came close to beating the Eagles was my Los Angeles Rams, Rudy.
Speaking of your Rams, they're going to have a very interesting offseason, Gio.
Very interesting. There's a lot of stuff on the rumor mill that I've been seeing about the Rams, and I'm pretty intrigued.
What are you seeing out there?
Well, I've been seeing a lot of Aaron Rodgers talk about the Rams if they potentially trade Stafford for the third pick, which would be the New York Giants. Now, right now, Rudy, can we agree Brian Daboll's on the hot seat? I mean, this is probably it for him. Are they going to draft a quarterback? Brian Daboll's going to get fired, so they might have to make a drastic move and bring in a veteran quarterback to kind of save the day. But I've been hearing that, and if the Rams do it, really, what they could do is trade down, get more picks.
Yeah.
And if you get Aaron Rodgers potentially, Devontae Adams comes by. I don't know. It would be very interesting to see Rodgers with Sean McVay.
Would be very, very interesting. You know, Derek, the possibilities of Matthew Stafford going to the Giants right now, I mean, it holds water. The Rams could get that third pick, trade down. This is a very, very weak NFL draft class at quarterback. I mean, it's very, very weak. So potentially you get picks next year and a better draft class when it comes to quarterbacks. How do you think Stafford fits in New York, Derek? I think, honestly, it's a perfect fit. I think Daboll would save his job by making a move like this if the Giants can do it.
I think it'll be a good move. The Giants are not the most offensive-minded team, I'll say. And then when you bring in a proven guy like Matthew Stafford, I think it's everything on the trend. Now, whether they're going to keep the coach, that's another story. But, Rudy, you gave me a situation the other day that made me start thinking about what's going on a little bit in Los Angeles, period. So I was hoping you told people the situation. What did you think about the J.J. McCarthy situation? Did you tell the folks anything about that?
I've kept that mum, so I'm going to go ahead and we'll release that now. We'll talk about it now. So, been going around a little bit. I had a conversation with a buddy in Los Angeles, and he covers the Chargers, and him and I were talking, and the comment was made, and I'll make it to Gio too. The comment was made that there's a potential idea of Justin Herbert getting traded. Now, they don't really have a receiving core. Jim Harbaugh has made it clear he wants to build the offensive line. He wants to build the trenches first. So your best collateral, your best piece is Justin Herbert. The potential idea is Justin Herbert gets traded to Minnesota for, I believe it's Christian Darrisaw, their best offensive lineman, their first-round pick this year, first-round pick next year, and then, of course, you got a couple of draft picks later on, as well as J.J. McCarthy. They go back to the Chargers. Minnesota picks up Justin Herbert. The only problem I see there is you're in the Dallas Cowboys situation. You don't have enough money to pay Herbert, Justin Jefferson, potentially Jordan Addison. So we're throwing that out now. We kind of tell things like it is. He called De'Aaron Fox. I called the Trevor Lawrence being talked about in the offseason. Now you saw today, Pittsburgh and other teams are going to make calls on Trevor Lawrence. I felt they were going to move on from him. Said that back in November. Now I'm coming out saying, don't be surprised if you see Herbert being talked about being traded. And I think Minnesota's the way to go. That's what I'm been kind of not told, but again, it's not a rumor. I don't have sources or anything. It's just talked about. And you know what? It's kind of picked up a little steam on social media.
Yeah, Rudy, that would be interesting. Harbaugh's a different guy. You've seen some of the quarterbacks he's had over the years of Kaepernick and Smith, and it's a very run-heavy team, right? And that's what he did this season. Kudos to them. They ran the ball a lot. They were consistent in the running game. If they got to bring an extra lineman in, a fullback, they're definitely going to be doing that. Harbaugh likes that kind of smash mouth style, like John Gruden. If I'm the Vikings, Rudy, I'd probably make that trade simply because you got to figure it out. If you get him in the building, you got a hell of a receiving core. Your defense is still pretty solid, pretty good with Brian Flores, I think, still there. So just imagine him in that offense throwing the ball. Obviously, you lose Darrisaw, who's a pillar, though Darrisaw did get hurt against the Rams. But this sounds like a Harbaugh type of move. I wouldn't be surprised him bringing in his old friend there and McCarthy to kind of run the show on offense. They want to run the football, play action. This is typical. I'm not surprised by this at all.
Keenan Allen goes back to the Chargers, I think, in the offseason as well.
That's an interesting move. I'm hearing some Rams fans wouldn't mind having Keenan Allen there if Cooper Kupp is gone, which looks like is the case.
So Cooper, and I think Derek's going to give me a big smile. Cooper has Detroit at the top of his list right now.
Yeah, I'm smiling twice. Yeah.
You guys keep always stealing our players, Derek.
Well, we got to make up for some of those injuries. But if we could add next year, we'll have Montgomery back healthy, and of course Jahmyr Gibbs. And if you could add Cooper Kupp to that, I mean, man, that would definitely be an addition that we couldn't turn down. I would be a happy guy.
What do you think, Gio? Cooper Kupp to the Lions?
Possible. That there was a photo going around that Cooper was wearing a Buffalo hat. I don't know how recent that photo was. I don't know if he's, how things kind of float around social media. Like, is this recent? But I would like to move for Detroit, getting Cooper Kupp back at his old pal with Jared Goff. And, if not for the injuries and some of the inconsistencies towards the end of your offense, the Lions are in the Super Bowl, and the Lions, I'm pretty sure, probably beat the Chiefs, at least from what I saw, obviously on Sunday. But no, I think good move for Detroit if they can get Cooper Kupp.
I believe so. You know, Derek, what did you think about the McCarthy Justin Herbert deal that I was talking to you about a couple of days ago?
Well, I think it would be great for both teams. I think J.J. McCarthy would be familiar. He'd be back with his coach at Michigan, Jim Harbaugh, and I think it'll work out for both teams. Stafford, I mean, he's a proven veteran already. He's got a ring under his belt. I mean, it could only help both teams. I would love for us to get Cooper Kupp. I know the fans in Detroit will welcome him with open arms. But I think that would be a trade that would benefit both teams.
I'm going to say, yeah, let's put that on the books there. I really feel that Harbaugh is secretly making these calls, trying to get Herbert moved. And nothing against Justin Herbert, but, you know, I hate to say this because a lot of people kind of give me grief about it. It feels like a Luka Doncic type move. Luka's a superstar. Luka's an all-NBA guy. But for the benefit and the betterment of the team, you have to make a tough decision and trade him away. And I think that's the way you have to look at the Chargers. Nothing wrong with Herbert, but if I can get multiple positions and get more draft picks and stuff for one player to help my rebuild, I'm going to do that all day, every day.
Rudy, do you think the Rams should trade Stafford for that third pick?
Yes. If it's possible, yes, 100%. You trade Matthew Stafford. Reason why is because you can go get a loaner. You can go get Russell Wilson. You can go get a couple of guys. You can even go get a Kirk Cousins. I'm not going to lie. Go get a Kirk Cousins. Just somebody there to bridge the gap for a year. Come in next year. What you're going to probably do is get multiple picks for next year. Trade up in that first round to go get you one of the better quarterbacks next year. So
yeah, because I think the Rams have to think Stafford's long-term success. The Rams have to think in the future whether Sean McVay is there or not. The Rams do need to look forward. If they do that trade, you trade down and look. Aaron Rodgers is out there. Rudy, does he have one last hurrah in him? Obviously, it didn't work out with the Jets, but Sean McVay is the boy genius on offense. I think those two can mesh well. And we saw LaFleur with Rodgers, and was pretty good. Unfortunately, just couldn't win enough playoff games.
Why not go after Derek Carr? Young quarterback still. I think under McVay, Derek Carr would be okay. I mean, I don't think he'd be bad. I mean, I don't want them to go sign Sam Darnold. That's for damn. I mean, don't waste the money on that.
I think the Rams will have a bunch of options. Stafford's looking for what, 100 guaranteed.
Yeah.
So do the Rams want to do that instead of maybe building this team? Because look, the Rams, their defense is young. They got some holes up front in the offensive line. If they can get some extra picks, add some guys. I love Stafford. If they bring him back, that's great. If they don't, that's great too.
I feel you. You know, one guy that we talked about. Oh, go ahead, Derek. Go ahead.
I'm just saying, man, you brought up Luka, and I'm sitting here thinking Matt Stafford, $100 million. At this point, that's a tough one because they try to get these guys money. Kirk Cousins makes a nice penny. A lot of these guys have gotten that money, man, and then it didn't work out, the way teams expected it. So do you throw $100 million to Matt Stafford and you don't really know what lies ahead for the next 3 years? I mean, that's a big decision. You have to really put on your general manager hat for that.
Well, they would have had Saquon Barkley, but we know what happened there, Derek. Rudy, that GM and that voice that we heard as the owner, Mara saying, I hope he doesn't go to the Eagles. It's going to make me sick. Now he doesn't go to the Eagles. He wins the Offensive Player of the Year, and he wins a Super Bowl.
Yeah, and if not for Jalen Hurts doing the tush push for those touchdowns, like I said, Saquon would have been your MVP of the year. Rudy,
that's a fireable offense. I'm firing my GM. I'm sorry. There's no way I'm bringing him back after what he quote unquote promised me. And Hard Knocks is just, that's going to live in infamy.
Well, and that's why as a GM for the Giants, you are making every deal possible. I have the 3rd pick in this draft, albeit it's a weak draft at quarterback. Go get another quarterback. Go get Kirk Cousins. Go get Matthew Stafford. Go get whoever, just to get your receiving core, Malik Neighbors, get him a quarterback that's going to be able to be decent. You know, you have guys that you can build around. Leja's in here. Carr to any other team that ain't the Saints. I can't defend that guy anymore. Carr is pretty much gone. I think Carr could be a really good, fit in Los Angeles. Maybe could go to the Jets for a year or so. I mean, he could go anywhere. But Derek, one guy that we talked about last offseason, all 3 of us here, we all talked about him. He's the odd man out. Starting to come out now. The possibilities of Micah Parsons being gone. Detroit at the top of that list. Pittsburgh at the top of that list. Again, this trade right here it's not anything that we're going by. It's just something out there. But everyone's starting to see. A year ago, we talked about this. Hey, you can only sign Dak, CD, and Micah. Two of the 3. They locked up Dak. They locked up CD. We said Micah was going to be the odd guy out. Look what they're saying now, Derek. Chances of him being traded, very, very good.
Well, I mean, he brings a lot of drama to the locker room. A spectacular athlete, but sometimes you have to wonder if these guys are really worth the headache, I'll say. We see what the Miami Heat just went through with Jimmy Butler, and now we got it going on in football as well. I'm sure the Cowboys will figure it out, but at this point in Micah's career, I think if they had to make a move for him, I don't think the fans will be as upset as I would expect them to be. I think that Luka's situation has kind of awakened a lot of people. And so now if the Cowboys were to make a move for get rid of Micah, I think the fans will be on board.
I agree 100%, man. The Luka Doncic deal kind of proves my point when I tell people don't be tied to players. Anybody can be traded.
Rudy, we saw what the Rams did with Jared Goff. No one thought the Rams could trade that contract. They get rid of him and they bring Stafford, and obviously they end up winning the Super Bowl. But, as a GM, you need to be able to have your eyes open everywhere. No one in general, quote unquote, should be untouchable. Obviously, there's certain players, but hey, if you give someone an offer they can't refuse, they'll listen. And at this point, now, Rudy, I was slightly against this because I thought you keep Micah, you keep CD, and you let Dak bounce. But they obviously decided to keep Dak. Now, trade possibility here. He's still he's a pass rusher. He does have that podcast during the year, so there's a lot of chatter he does do, but he's a hell of a talent. If I'm Detroit, you definitely take a look at that. Yeah. You also see the guy up there in Cleveland, Rudy, and
Myles Garrett.
Myles Garrett is another one who wants to be traded from the shores of Lake Erie. So, hey, it's going to be – I think we might see more trades this offseason than we've seen in a while because of that Luka trade. It's kind of weird, but I think it's going to sprinkle into the NFL.
What's crazy – Go ahead, Derek.
Hey, they trading the guys who doing these podcasts.
It's true, yeah.
I'm just saying, man, you look at people like Paul George. Some of these guys, I think, are more concerned now with their podcast than their actual jobs in the pro sports, man. And some's been doing really weird stuff. Micah and his podcast. It's just a lot of guys. Draymond and his podcast, doing these podcasts, and they're not living up to their standards as far as what's expected from their pro team.
Yeah, I have to pick you off Derek. It's a lot of guys doing a lot of talking, and I'm not seeing enough on the field or on the basketball court. It's just not translating. A lot of these guys get these deals, and I'm not necessarily talking about Micah because he's a hell of a player, but it's just in general. I mean, Paul George has his podcast. I don't remember the last time I even see Paul George play. It's just it just becomes an afterthought. And what's happening is they're thinking about life after sports, right? What are they going to do after sports? Shout out to Jameis Winston. He is going to have a career in broadcasting. I saw him during Super Bowl week, Rudy. He was great. Can't wait to see what happens with his career outside.
It's crazy, man. You know, the thing with Micah, going back to him, is I'm gonna applaud Jerry and Stephen Jones. I'm gonna give them a little bit of flowers and roses, because if he's the guy that ends up getting dealt, I really think, call me crazy, but I really think Micah holds the most value of the three. Elite pass rusher. You know, defense is key. You got to get to the quarterback. I mean, that's the thing, man. I think he holds the most value of all three guys. So trade your best asset and let it roll, dude. I mean, that's what I feel about Micah. I think trading him, you can get some draft picks, some really good draft picks in return. So by all means, trade him. I mean, he's the most tradable asset right there.
I mean, you could probably trade him to Siberia when it comes to the NFL. And in the NBA it's Toronto. In the NFL, I'm not quite sure. Maybe New England. I don't know.
Well, they got him at New England here, but I don't think he goes to New England. I think it's either Detroit, Pittsburgh.
Rudy, quick question. Did you see what Dak Prescott said?
Was it along the lines of their Super Bowl, they're going to win the Super Bowl, or they're competitive or something?
Something about that they play the Eagles tough and that they're going to be next. Dak, this is not your moment, Dak. I'm surprised he said that. If it was Jerry, Jerry's always going to say something about his team. But the Cowboys, somehow, some way, some Cowboy got to put themselves in that talk.
I know. Derek, you think Dak needs to settle down, Derek?
I'm not laughing, fans. I'm just, every year we hear the same thing. Here's it now, 29?
Yeah.
Just as old as me.
Oh, my God. Just as old as you, man. He's 29 years old.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we hear you now.
Yeah, Derek.
You able to hear us? Might be having some issues here with Derek. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear us, Derek. Maybe not. Either way, we're going to go to a quick commercial break. On the way back, man, the De'Aaron Fox deal. I got to give it an A+. I think De'Aaron Fox makes a big difference, but I don't know about the Spurs overall. We kind of said, pump the brakes a little bit. So when we get back, we're going to talk San Antonio Spurs, and we're going to lay into the Spurs if we have to, and we'll see what goes on here. We are talking to Coach Gio, Derek Gervin, Rudy Campos Jr. We'll be back here in just a minute. Give us a couple of minutes here, guys.
Time to react, shift like a skate. Left, right, lean, it's a bucket in sight. Pull up mid, let it fly, no hype. Fourth quarter ice, keep the rock in my grip. When the clock go red, don't slip, I rip. Fast as allowed, the motor don't quit. Drop 30 quick, now they begging for a switch. Fox in the open, the lane look free, now allow that up. Win B. And running no team, keep pace. Fox got gears, Wemby got grace. Hoop too high, man, you won't touch. Use Spurs every year, time to rush. Speed through real, check that type. Defenders froze, now they stuck in place. Who gon' step, man, don't play dumb. Fast.
Are you looking for a contracting company that gets the job done right the first time? Look no further than MCS General Contracting. MCS specializes in top quality concrete work, including patios, driveways, foundations, and swimming pools. The team of experts are dedicated to delivering exceptional results and unparalleled customer satisfaction. At MCS General Contracting, they're not just hardworking, they're local. Based in San Antonio, they are committed to building relationships and trust within the community. That's why MCS guarantees your satisfaction. They pride themselves on getting the job done right the first time, every time. So why wait? Contract MCS General Contracting today to schedule your project and experience the difference for yourself. MCS General Contracting. Building a better San Antonio, one project at a time. proud sponsors of Sweep the League.
You are watching Sweep the League TV. Make sure you subscribe and catch our new videos.
Sweep the League TV with Rudy Derrick and Coach Gio. Let's get back to the live show. You are watching the best in the business.
All right, welcome back to Sweep the League. Coach Gio, Derek should be back here in just a little bit. He was having some technical difficulties still. Rudy Campos Jr. joining you here. Be sure to go to our YouTube page or Sweep the League TV, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on anything from Coach Gio, myself, and Derek Gervin. Let's bring him back on here, see how he's doing here with the technical stuff. Derek, you doing all right, man?
Man, you know I'm struggling, man. I'm so disappointed, man. I don't know. I know you. We'll talk later on because I know you mentioned a friend might be able to help me.
Yeah,
so, I need. It's killing me not being able to do these shows regularly, man. I don't want people to. I don't want to feel like an outsider.
Oh no, you are.
Derek, you're never an outsider.
Never, man. You.
I missed this my show, man. It's been killing me. I've never had this happen to my phone before.
Yeah, no, don't worry about it, man. If it works, it works. Or not,
last few weeks have been difficult, so it's just this show.
Yeah, we'll work on it, man, to get you back on frequently for sure. We got to get you back on. Aziz going to go back in and out here. We got some comments, man. Let's get to these comments. Leja's in here. Cowboys ain't winning lick. They lucky to go 7-10. And fire Mitch Holzer A for letting this go for so long. Here come the fire Mitch Johnson takes here. And you know what? I'm going to give credit to Leja, man. Leja's right. He's right, dude, because when you look at the Spurs struggle, you trade for De'Aaron Fox, Gio. They're 2-3 when Fox is playing. Their wins are against Atlanta, winnable. The Washington Wizards, winnable. Two of the, Atlanta's a play-in team right now. Washington is, obviously not in the playing anything. They're 9 wins, I think, on the year. Their losses have come against Charlotte, Orlando, both 1-point losses. And then they got pretty much blown out by Boston. I mean, it's 116-103, but it wasn't as close as that score shows it. The Fox trade is an A+. Can we agree on that? A+ on the Fox trade makes perfect sense. You have Wemby, you have Fox, you kept Stephon Castle. Everybody was excited that you were able to keep all these guys. But they're just that. They're just guys, man. I mean, everybody's been hyping up Devin Vassell. We've been saying Devin's probably already hit that ceiling. Keldon Johnson, he can take it up another notch. He's been scratching on that ceiling for a while. Jeremy Sohan, I mean, you got to play him. You got to do this. You got to do that. Jeremy was on the bench in Baylor. He was a 6-man, if I'm not mistaken. So you use a lottery pick on a guy who wasn't probably the best player on his team in hopes that he becomes Boris Diaw. So I'm glad they kept the core, but maybe Sacramento and even the Bulls knew what they were getting in return and just didn't want it. Can we kind of turn the table on that?
Rudy, we talked about it. We said
we did.
It doesn't mean the team is going to be in the playoffs. It just means they're a step closer to that potential ultimate goal in the next several years to get to the playoffs and maybe make a run. But at this point, Rudy, those 2 1-point games, that's just killer, man. Especially to Charlotte. It's just killer. You got to win games. And we said it, Rudy. We're closing in on the middle of February, heading towards March soon.
Yeah.
They got to start winning games. If they don't, they're not going to make the play-in game. Fox has been good. Russell's always up and down. Johnson seemed like more low than down. I do like what I see from Castle. He's definitely improving. But overall, Rudy, it's just we talked about the West. And we even said, if the Lakers don't falter, there goes one spot, right? Like, it's just too many teams. Sacramento's a team that they didn't rest. They're trying to improve.
Yeah.
And the pickups they did, the Spurs right now just not consistent enough. And, playing the Celtics, they gave up 37 points in one quarter. It comes down to, hey, You got to be consistent enough. You know, Victor, he's on his way, man. It's still got a long process to go. And this Spurs team, the way it's constructed already, they're behind Phoenix at this point. They have to start winning games at some point. If not, Spurs fans, I'll see you next year.
Pretty much, right? Like how the team doesn't know how to develop anymore. They ruined Sohan. But yeah, it's time to say peace to Devin, Keldon, and Jeremy. We've been saying it right now. And again, you know, maybe there's a reason why those guys weren't involved in the trade. I mean, maybe these other teams realized we're just getting just guys. I mean, it's all we're getting. I mean, how are they going to help our team? They're good enough to help Chicago win, which Chicago doesn't want to do. But they're not good enough to play probably a significant role in Sacramento. So, yeah, what happens there? And why the hell did they sign a backup and not use him? I say he's not. I ain't saying he's a savior, but Wemby is gassed. We need another big Utah's Kessler or bring back Pirtle. I like the Kessler move. I think that's one that they will look at in the offseason, considering the fact that AJ DiBianza is going to be available next year. And that's who Utah wants to draft at number 1. They may move on for a couple of pieces. Jakob, I would love to see Jakob Pirtle here. But to your credit, Gio, I mean, the Spurs are still 6 games under 500, 23-29. They're 3 games back of Phoenix, who's not even the play-on. They're the 11th seed. But if you look up and down, Oklahoma City ain't going anywhere. Memphis and Denver and Houston, they ain't going anywhere. Look at the Lakers. Now, you saw them lose to Utah the other night. Luka, LeBron, L squared. I mean, it could work. It can't work. I don't know. They need a big man. Jackson Hayes can be their best big man there. They're going to still be there. Minnesota Timberwolves are still going to be there.
The Clippers are still going to be there.
Yeah. The Mavericks, I understand the AD, but they still have more talent to keep them in that play-in spot. When AD gets, you saw what AD did with Dallas in that first half. I mean, the guy was on his way to a 40-20 night.
Yeah.
Or his performance in Dallas. I mean, it shows why they made a deal for him. Sacramento got better. They're playing good. Golden State with Jimmy Butler now, Gio, like you mentioned, they're still going to be in the thick of things. I don't see 10 teams faltering. Maybe the Lakers, but then you've got Phoenix to worry about. So, yeah, I think the Spurs are screwed, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's going to take a Herculean effort. And when Wemby does at times look gasp.
It does.
But, hey, you're that guy, right? So no one's going to feel sorry for you. And at the end of the day, other guys also got to step up. You need all hands on deck, as we've been saying, Rudy. If they want to make a run, you got to start losing games or winning games. And at this point, they're not out of it yet. But Rudy, if they lose another 4 or 5 of these games in a row, this season's cooked, man.
I think Leia's right. We are going to be screwed, aren't we? A bunch of dead money loading, or are we just going to suck for a minute? I'll be honest, Leia. I'm going to be 100 with you right now. They're not going to suck very long. They're on the right path. They've got 3 guys to work with. They've got Castle, Fox, Wemby. It's the other guys. Now, it also goes to coaching. Mitch Johnson, that was the person that you and I pointed at when the Fox deal was made. Mitch Johnson's not that guy. Now, if Pop comes back, then I think you see a steady move up the rankings, the standings, because Pop's different. Pop coach is different. Mitch Johnson, he's a substitute teacher. He's not the feature coach of the Spurs. He's a substitute. So you're not going to pay him, regular teacher money. That's what I feel when it comes to Mitch. He's doing a good job. He's balancing. He's keeping the boat steady as it rocks, but he's a substitute teacher. Nothing wrong with that, man. Nothing wrong with that.
Why not go with Brett Brown as the assistant that was essentially right now as Pop's gone. I mean, Brent has at least experience as a head coach.
I don't know, but I'm going to tell you another thing. Why not go, if you don't buy Brent Brown, you had a guy that went to the finals, Mike Brown. There's no beef between him and Fox. There's zero beef. The whole party that said, oh, Sacramento fired Mike Brown because De'Aaron Fox wanted that. I call BS on that. I said it was BS when it happened. Had nothing to do with Fox. Yeah, you still lost De'Aaron Fox through a trade. Why not Mike Brown? Former NBA winning coach, title winning coach with the Spurs. Didn't he take a Cavs team to the NBA Finals?
He did. He was coach of the year for the Kings, right? I believe.
I mean, in the words of your boy, Gio, Herm Edwards, hello.
Yeah, really. It's a golden opportunity here, and Spurs just gotta win, baby. In the words of Al Davis, just win, and let's see what we could do come postseason time if we get a decent matchup. But at this point, you keep losing those games, it's going to be a summer of fiesta here in San Antonio.
Well, I'm already making plans for football season. Let's put it that way. I'm not making any more NBA plans. Darson here, Spurs do not need to make the play in this year. Stop pushing the young team. Why does everyone win a championship team in less than a year's time? It took Jordan 10 years, Robinson 10 years. Stop pushing.
I'm not saying any of that. No, I'm not pushing any championship team. It would be nice if they play in, but no, it's nowhere near championship team.
So I'm going to stick to what I've been saying for the past couple of years. When Wemby was drafted, the turnaround for the Spurs is the summer of 2025. They will be a minimum play-in team, but a playoff team in the 25-26 season. I haven't moved from that. They got De'Aaron Fox. I told Derek, okay, maybe they get to 39 wins this year because of De'Aaron Fox. I still have them at 30, 35 the most. Maybe Fox gets them to 39, but I said they don't make the play-in minimum until 25-26. This offseason is the biggest offseason for the Spurs, hands down. So, yeah, I mean, this team, I think you're going to see a lot of moves being made in the offseason. Jordan Robinson, we're called the greatest generation talent of all time. Wemby isn't going to play 20 years. His built isn't to be long-term play. I don't think Wemby has a 20-year career at all. I agree with Leigh on that. Mitch Ainess, the Wizards didn't want him. The Wizards and the Holtz, RC and Brian Wrong said that. That's the man. I don't think so, man. He's a substitute teacher, Gio. That's what I think. Basketball is a team sport, not an individual sport, as John is saying there. I mean, I'm going to bring up something, Gio. I want you to talk about it. I'm sharing the screen. Hopefully you can see it. If not, I'll try to blow it up a little bit for you. Spurs schedule. Coming back from the All-Star break. Let's go to the first, 10 games. From what you see from this team, they have Phoenix at home, but they have Phoenix. They welcome Detroit, playoff team right now in Detroit. Then you have a back-to-back in New Orleans.
You gotta beat New Orleans.
You're hoping for one of those wins, at least one. Then you've got a nice little 3-game terror right there. Houston, Memphis, Oklahoma City. Welcome back, Chet Holmgren and Isaiah Hartenstein. I mean, in those 2, 4, 6, 7 games right there, how many wins do you see in 7 games? Because honestly, I see 3.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I'm thinking 3 games. New Orleans, look, it's one of those games where you're in there for 2 games. Yeah. You got to beat them. Phoenix, you You hope Kevin Durant comes back rusty. This is a team that could keep or kind of nosediving towards the end of the season. Detroit, Rudy, they're a playoff team. Look, and not only that, Rudy, they still got the Kings, Minnesota, Dallas, just the West. And then you get Charlotte on a random day, and Charlotte might just beat you again. It's a tough Western Conference. Rudy, I see 3 wins right now. Could they get to 4, potentially beating Phoenix? Coming back from that kind of Austin. But, Rudy, I see 3. I mean, could they shock it and beat a Memphis? Sure. Houston, obviously, a rivalry game. But, I mean, Rudy, it's going to be tough sledding. Now, as you see, schedule lightens up slightly at the end of the year. What you have Portland. Actually, it doesn't really. It's still Toronto, Siberia. at that point where the Spurs, they're probably done by then if they, kind of falter. But no, it's a tough stretch. I'm going
to put you on the spot here. Do they get to 35 wins?
How many
they're sitting at 23. Do you see 12 wins on this year? I can give them 7. I said 30 wins. I can give them 7. Do you see 12 wins on the remaining schedule here?
I don't. They're going to beat someone they're not supposed to. I'm going to say, I'll say 8 or 9.
So we have them probably at 31, 32 wins. Which, again...
Now, listen, if Fox... We've seen him in Sacramento. He'll go off for 4. I mean, if he's having Herculean efforts... Sure, but at this point, at least from what I'm seeing, I don't see 12 wins.
It's hard to see it. And you know what sucks, man, is that it's 3 guys against the entire league right now. And it's the coaching. Now, okay, put it back. If Pop comes back, do you see 12 wins?
No, I think it's going to be this. Because by then... When is Pop slated to come back?
There's no date yet, but supposedly it's after the rodeo road trip, which is done. So maybe after All-Star break. I have no idea. I don't have sources.
What's Pop mental state? How is I feel like a lot goes into how's he feeling.
You got to figure he probably won't travel.
It's the thing.
That's tough. Leja says, I had them at 32 to 36 wins max. I wanted to be wrong. We should have gotten Trey. He out there fighting.
Well,
I don't think Trae Young gets him to 36 wins.
No, Trey, I mean, both scores different in how they approach, but I think with Trey still really, you're still looking out. I don't think that's enough.
No. You're going to win just as many games with Trey as you are with Fox.
Wemby's going to have to Wemby and Fox, Rudy, obviously Castle, but are going to have to really take it up a notch.
Yeah, I don't doubt that at all. I mean,
a big notch. We need 30 points, probably plus each.
I mean, they combined for what, 61 the other day?
Okay, never mind. More.
Yeah, I mean, they combined for 61. I want to say it wasn't a win, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, against Washington. It was against Washington. I think it was combined like 61.
Okay, points. So that's probably what they need then, at least to have a legit shot.
But they didn't even beat Washington throughout the entire game.
No, it was only a 10-point game.
It was, I mean, if you're getting just under half of your points from 2 guys, and you're barely beating the Wizards, something's wrong, man. Something's desperately wrong.
I mean, Vassell only had 7. You got to consistently get more from him. Castle had 16. That's good to see. But in general, Chris Paul at this point he's just out there playing.
Yeah, Trey had 39 points and 19 assists. Wow. And again, nothing against Trey, but, I think Trey and Wemby, Fox and Wemby, you're probably going to win the exact amount of games. It depends on who you surround him with.
And who did he play? He's in the Eastern Conference. Come on, man.
Like I said, Wemby and Foxy to average 35 points per game each. Now,
yeah, that's probably.
I'm going to bring this up again, Gio. They average 35 points each. That's 70 points. Can you find now? Say Stephon Castle hits his average about 12, let's say 15.
Yeah,
that's 85 points between three players. Can you find another 25 to 30 points from anywhere else on that team? Because look at the scores: 103, 121, 111, 116, 125, 109. They're giving up damn near 110 points. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, look, some days you got Devin rolling, some days you don't. To me, you look at this, Johnson has to step up.
Do you think it's more Johnson or Devin? I think it's more Devin.
Well, he had Devin too. He had 7 points. I think the other night I saw he had 25 points, but you got to be consistent. But really, I watched some of these games and it's just, I don't know, man. This is not the old NBA or even 2010 or 15. It's just a different NBA. And when you're watching, you just don't see cohesiveness. You don't see guys knowing their roles.
No.
And that's what we talk about a lot of is knowing your role, right? You just got a lot of guys out there doing their own thing, have their own podcast, jacking up shots most of the time. I'll never forget when I went last season to the Spurs and Pacer game, and the Spurs lost by almost 50 points. And I'm just sitting there. I said, what did I just watch? Is this real basketball?
Yeah.
The Spurs can't be that bad. They were pretty bad last season, but
it's bad.
Yeah.
It's very bad. Leha saying that they Trey took them to overtime against the Knicks. Are we saying the Knicks are ass? No, I'm not.
No, I in general, the Eastern Conference, most of the teams are ass, but no, the Knicks are not. And look, I think Trey's phenomenal. And he comes and goes. He's mostly on. So I could see a scenario where Trey might be more consistent scoring. But at the end of the day, Rudy, is it enough in the Western Conference? I think not.
Well, I'm on record saying it, so I'm going to continue to say it. I actually have the Knicks and the Oklahoma City Thunder in the NBA Finals. I've got the Thunder winning the NBA Final, the NBA Championship this year.
You think Tibbs is? What do I always say about the Tibbs teams? Right? I think they just run out of gas.
They run out of gas. You do, but I can't go back until we come playoff time. I see what happens, but go through injuries, all that stuff. Obviously, I think Boston is the team to beat in the East, but I'm going to stick to my guns. I've got the Knicks and I've got the Oklahoma City Thunder in my NBA championship matchup.
Imagine Cleveland in the finals, Rudy. It's a possibility.
That's got to be a team you stop and think like, you're good, but you're not ready good. Is that fair to say?
But, Mitchell's been in the playoffs a lot. He had some flameouts with the Jazz, but I think they got something there, Rudy. It's obviously matchups and, Boston's tried and true. They've been on the road. They've won road games. I think right now, as you said, over. I think Boston is, to me, the team to beat. The Knicks, they have an opportunity. I just feel like the way they play, Rudy, the style they play, and kind of those slugfest series, which is great, but I don't think long-term, when Boston's jacking up threes left and right, will they hold up? Will Jalen hold up? Time will tell. But I would love to see the Knicks in the finals. That'd be cool.
Yeah, you're a New York boy.
I'm a New York boy, so it was good to see the New York Knicks in the finals. I mean, I did grow up in Brooklyn, but the Nets came years later. But
yeah,
I like what the Knicks are doing, but I'm wondering, will some way they'll just run out of gas in the playoffs again?
I'm going to tell Leha now. He says, all I'm saying is Trey took the Hawks to the Eastern Conference Finals with who, and he's always out there hustling. I'm going to say the Spurs don't want Trey Young because they call him Ice Trey. There's only one ice in San Antonio, so they don't want to pass that moniker over.
It's Trey. Different. I think
I'm just
Trey's a hell of a assist guy. I mean, he's a numbers guy, but I'm fine with Fox. If you wanted Trey, I mean, I'm not going to fight you on it.
No,
but
one.
Both are very different, and I've seen Fox go off with the Kings. It's also pretty impressive. Wait till he starts flowing. We'll see.
We'll see. Hey, before we go, we got a caught off guard moment with Coach Gio here. Caught us off guard. All right, Gio, where do you rank on this? The top 10 NBA centers brought to you by Today in Sports. You've got number 1, Kareem, 2, Wilt, 3, Bill Russell, 4, Olajuwon, 5, Shaq, 6, David, 7, Patrick, 8, Moses, 9, George Mikan, and 10, Dwight Howard. Agree with this list? What would you do with this list?
Tim Duncan is technically a center, but he's a forward. We'll leave him alone.
He's the greatest power forward. Leave him alone. Leave Theodore Duncan out of this.
Jokic.
I would say yes. Jokic.
I would put Jokic in. Dwight, you're a really good player. But I almost feel as if it's tough with George Mikan, right? Because George played in an era where there was literally no one. George did win a bunch of championship with the Minneapolis Lakers, which then moved to LA. But man, this is a tough one here.
I'm caught off guard.
This is tough because I think Jokic deserves to be in the top 10. But let's go down the list real quick. So Kareem, I mean,
no doubt
in my mind. Wilt Chamberlain, listen, the man put up 100 points. He made new rules, or the league made new rules because of him. And Bill Russell, I love the love for Hakeem Olajuwon here because I think he was such a really great player and an offensive just footwork magician. If for you youngsters who are listening, and for you old people too, go watch Hakeem's highlights, Rudy. It's unbelievable. And his defensive prowess. Shaq, obviously the most dominant player. And because you put Shaq at 4, that's perfectly fine. It doesn't matter to me. David Robinson, Patrick, Moses. Take out Mike, and I'm going to put Jokic. So I could see Jokic over Patrick, though, Rudy.
Yeah, the Patrick Ewing ranking, it kills me.
Yeah.
Because I think he deserves to be in the top 10, but I don't have him over Moses. That's just me. I mean, you're talking what? 2-time MVP, Moses Malone?
Yeah.
I mean, man, that's so tough. Moses wasn't the true heart. I mean, he was the heart of teams, the Houston Rockets, heart in Philadelphia. But when you talk New York Knicks basketball, it's not always about Walt Clyde Frazier. Who else? Dave DeBusschere. It's not those guys. Bernard King. You always go Patrick Ewing. So I'm not upset that Patrick's at 7, but I think he would be lower. But would you put Patrick over Joker?
As someone who's from New York, Patrick doesn't deserve all the hate that he gets.
No, it doesn't.
I think Joker's over Patrick. I just think it sucks because we have to nitpick here, Rudy, right? We have to really dissect this. But you can take Patrick could be 10, right? Like if you're going to move him down. Damn! I would take Mikan off, Rudy. I would take Mikan off, put Jokic in.
Okay, I'm in total agreement that Jokic is in. Jokic in there has a total agreement. But Patrick at 10. So you would have Dwight Howard over Patrick Ewing.
No,
You're taking Mikan off the list, which means Dwight stays on.
Dwight was a really good player, though.
Damn good.
We had to show love. Took a Magic team to the finals. Unfortunately, we're into Kobe. It's tough, Rudy. I think Patrick's man. it's a tough spot here, really. Like you definitely did caught me off guard. But you could take Mikan off. You could put Dwight Howard on there, or keep him and just add Jokic. Jokic still really could be 7th. He could even be higher than David Robinson, which I know Spurs fans a little sacrilegious, but he has won multiple MVPs. David only has one. Though David has more championships. So
this is a crazy list, isn't it?
Would you take Dwight off then and keep Mikan?
Well, I mean, so I'll make the argument for Dwight Howard. I mean, Dwight was one of the best centers in the league, 2-time Defensive Player of the Year. You mentioned took an Orlando Magic team to the finals, ran into the buzzsaw of the Lakers, but George Mikan playing in a day where height was not very common. But again, do you hold that against Mikan? I mean, you really can't. The guy was dominant, the dominant big man.
You don't, but I mean, Dwight, what? 4-time first team defense as well as second team continue. I mean,
he wasn't an MVP, was he?
No.
Okay. I couldn't remember if he won.
The rebounding leader, 2-time block leader. I mean, his stature is as good as anyone. Now, granted, Rudy, during that time, centers were disappearing. I mean, they're not what they obviously used to be, even in Patrick's day, of course. But Dwight was a load, and he was a really good player. So you have to factor in that. Now, he didn't win any MVPs or championships or anything else like that. That's why I would probably leave him at 10. Move Joker up. Moses Malone, though, I mean, talk about a man. That was a man, Rudy.
Yeah.
So I can't fault you on that. And Rudy, he's a 3-time MVP, actually.
3-time MVP, Moses Malone. Sorry.
3-time, 1979, 82, and 83. 12-time All-Star, a Finals MVP as well. Moses was... He was a man.
Now you know why I say I have to have him above Patrick.
Yes. Patrick's the guy that, the championship just wasn't there. No MVPs.
So before we go and before we get off this list, I'm gonna say something horrible here. And this is terrible. So apologize to everyone out there who's a fan. But by the looks of this list, Patrick Ewing doesn't deserve top 10 credit. If you're moving Joker in, the one guy based off accomplishments, based off of careers accomplishments, Patrick is the odd man out. I mean, All-Star, forget All-Stars, because I mean, All-Stars are a dime a dozen. But I don't think he's ever been Defensive Player of the Year. Not an MVP winner. I mean, all NBAs, I think he had a few all NBAs. But ideally, Patrick is the odd man out. And that's what I was thinking about this morning when I saw this. It sucks, but Patrick is the odd man out.
Yeah, I mean, he made all NBA first team once. Second team, he made it 6 times. So that's still really good, right? Yeah. So the championships, the MVPs, Rudy, are probably what knocks him down. And of course, listen, he played in an era where he's battling Shaq every night, and he's battling Alonzo Mourning and Rick Smith and all these guys. He just didn't win enough. Doesn't go up against anything. He's a great player. Yeah. I'll have him on my team, but I'm just saying on this list,
he's the odd man out.
He's the odd man out. David did win an MVP, a championship. And David Robinson, Rudy, go watch his tape. He's another one. David's prime before that back and that disc injury. I mean, absolutely phenomenal player. Led the Spurs to, up to that point, was the greatest single season turnaround in NBA history.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's David Robinson for you, man. And that's why I'm thinking the sad part is Patrick Ewing is the odd man out. I mean, as sucks as it is to say, he's the odd man out. That's crazy to think about. That Patrick Ewing, and John mentioned a couple other guys, but I mean, Sabonis wasn't. It's NBA center. Sabonis. I mean, basketball wise, yeah, Sabonis would be number 1 or 2, probably number 2. I don't think I can put anybody above Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Same thing with Yao Ming. I mean, Vlade Divac, Alonzo Mourning. Those guys are maybe top 20 of all time. But.
Well, Yao's. Are you going to do a top 20 list? I think Yao would be on there, Rudy. Would you say?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, think top 20, yeah.
If not for the injuries, I thought Yao. I remember that series he played against the Lakers. He played phenomenal. I think he got hurt at the end. Yao Ming was, again, if not for the injuries, saw him a lot more. Could he have creeped up into here? I don't know, but he would have been potentially closer. But no, Yao, hell of a player. And Alonzo Mourning, of course, in his day, was a very good player, but I'll probably say top 20 for those two guys there if you're doing an even later list. But if you do the whole list, you might find it hard. I mean, we'll see.
Maybe we'll have to work on that. One thing I do want to get with you on, if you're on tomorrow, maybe we'll do it tomorrow in honor of the NBA All-Star game, but if not, we'll hit it up. Can you get a full 10-man roster, the best 10-man roster of guys who played their entire career with one team? Kobe, Timmy, Dirk are the top 3 right now that I can come off with. Magic at point, because he was a Laker. He didn't go anywhere else. Isaiah Thomas is on that list. So, I mean, you've already got a pretty damn good start to the starting 5.
No, I mean, you got what? Tim Duncan.
Yeah.
Steph.
Well, no. There's a catch to it. They have to already be retired.
Oh, okay.
Because remember, these guys, Steph can be traded at the end of the summer. Who knows? Like, they've got to be retired. So done with one team. So that eliminates Mike because he was a Wizard for a year.
Damn Toto.
That eliminates Patrick Ewing. That eliminates Chris Mullin because he was with Indiana, if I'm not mistaken, for a year or so.
Yeah.
I mean, you could go Larry Bird on that team. Stayed with the Celtics. You can't use Olajuwon.
Yeah, no. Hakeem went to Houston at the end. And Toronto.
So the top.
You can't use George Gervin because he went to the Bulls.
Gervin was traded to the Bulls, so you can't use Gervin. So I was thinking about that today. Like, I wonder, what's the best team you could put of top 10 top 10 team, like top 10 players to ever play for just one? Did
James Worthy?
Worthy played for the Lakers only. Yeah.
I think he's one of them.
I mean, you're going off those lists. You can't use Kareem.
John Stockton.
You can use Stockton. You can't use Malone because he was a Laker. Can't use Gary Payton.
Dirk Nowitzki.
You can use Nowitzki. Yeah. Well, no, take it back. Because if we're using technicality, Dirk was drafted by the Bucks.
Rudy, you know what I mean. The team he started with.
I could make it tougher.
The team he started with was the team that he. And I'm trying to think of any other random. How about did Elgin Baylor? Did he play for what? Did he play for the ABA? I don't remember.
Elgin Baylor was a Laker, but I couldn't tell you. I don't know if he played with any other teams, if I'm not mistaken. I can bring it up real quick. So he did. Well, no, he played just with the Lakers only.
Manu Ginobili.
Ginobili's another one.
Or should I say Ginobili?
Ginobili. I mean, Jerry West, I think he was another one that played with just the Lakers only, if I'm not mistaken. It's a lot harder. I mean, you can. Oh, well, I had one guy says, Bill Walton. Like, no, Walton started with Portland. He went to Boston. You can't use Bill Walton. It's a pretty good team. And I wonder, the team that you put together, could they go 82-0? That's the key.
It'd be tough.
You'd have to have a pretty damn good bench. But prime Bird, prime Magic, prime Kobe, prime Tim, prime Dirk, prime Stockton. I mean, that's a pretty damn good team just to start off with.
Well, you also got Reggie Miller, now that I think about it.
I don't know if Reggie makes the squad. I'm not a big Reggie fan.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not a really big Reggie Miller fan.
Why not?
Look at his numbers, man. I mean, look at his accomplishments and look at his numbers. If you were just to go and you didn't know anything about basketball, nothing at all, would you think he's a Hall of Famer? If you knew nothing about the choking, New York City or, the times of the Pacers, if I was to give you his accomplishments, is he a Hall of Famer? 5-time NBA All-Star, 3-time All-NBA third team, a part of the 50-40-90 club 1 year. Averaged 18 points a game, 3 rebounds, 3 assists a game. So you mean to tell me that's Hall of Fame worthy?
Well, the NBA standard is very different compared to other sports. But I'll say this.
It's Peter Dinklage low. Put it that way.
When we look at Reggie, I think you also have to take into account he's with the Indiana Pacers his entire career.
Yeah.
Played in an era where he had Michael Jordan. And he got to a few conference finals. He got to an NBA finals as the main piece.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm fine with him in the Hall of Fame. I really don't have any issues with it simply because in the NBA is so different. Like obviously your team has to be really good and where you go but really for him to do what he did at Indiana, put that team on the map, a small market team. Sure, maybe his awards aren't as great, but as an NBA Hall of Famer for that franchise and that team, I'm fine. And took the Bulls to the brink of elimination. The only team to take the Bulls to 7 games. And should have won that game too, by the way. They were up in that game but on the road. Question, Rudy, if they beat the Bulls, do you think they beat the Jazz in the finals? Because we're looking at 98 Jazz, so that's their second finals run.
No. I think the Jazz win. I think the Jazz win.
We'll have to talk about this maybe tomorrow, but
I'd love to talk about it because I think the Jazz win. You're talking 98 Jazz?
So it's the 98 Jazz, not 97, 98.
98, 99 or 97, 98?
It's 97, 98, right? I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the second run to the finals. I don't know, Rudy.
I'm going to say no.
I think the Pacers have a good shot in that series. Beating the Bulls, taking them to game 7. Jalen Rose, Travis Best, Chris Mullin, the Davis twins. I think, Rudy, they have enough to throw at the Jazz. I think Indiana, man, that would have been a hell of a series, but I think Indiana wins the finals, Rudy, if they get past the Bulls.
Damn, that's a good one. I'd love to talk about that one.
If you look at that roster, Rudy, it's pretty good. And you also got Rick Smith there too.
Well, that's the thing. John Stockton outplays what? Who is there? Mark Jackson? Travis Best?
I forgot about Mark Jackson.
I want to say it was Mark Jackson,
Yeah.
Travis Best. Jalen Rose was on that team, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know, man. I mean, that Jazz team took the Bulls to 7 games.
6 games.
Was it 6? Yeah, 6 games. So it took them to 6 games. Byron Russell probably gives Reggie a headache. Stockton's the best point guard on both teams. Malone dominates the Davis twins. That's a good one. That's a tough one. That's a good one. I kind of like that.
And get Chris Mullins shooting threes. I think.
So how does a loaded Indiana team not get past that Bulls team?
Rudy, you know Rudy.
Number 23, obviously.
Yeah, number 23. That's the difference. That's the guy, Rudy. It's Michael Jeffrey Jordan. I mean, look, you look at the coaching. It's Sloan versus Larry Bird. I mean, at that point, Larry's still pretty young in his coaching career. Jalen Rose, what? You also got Derek McKee as well, Rudy. I don't know, man. I felt like I thought that Indiana team was pretty good.
I'm not going to say it wasn't bad. It was good, but that's tough because I don't know if they beat the Jazz. It's kind of hard to say. Jazz had the best record in the NBA? Or no, they didn't have the best record in the NBA. I think that was the Bulls that year. Yeah, that was the Bulls because that was Rodman. That's a tough one, dude. That's a tough one. That was a really tough one.
In 98, Jazz had the number 1 seed.
Did they?
62 wins.
Well, the Bulls had 62 that year too.
Oh, and then Seattle.
Okay, I'm going through it now. So yeah,
Seattle was second, 61. That's crazy how many wins the Sonics would. Those Sonics have so many wins. They had the Lakers, Suns. Think about it, for the Spurs were the 5th seed. They had 56 wins.
Can you imagine that, Gio? If you go, I'm looking at the standings now. The Houston Rockets in the Western Conference in 97-98 were the 8th seed, 41-41. Sacramento was the 9th seed at 27 wins. Houston was 14 games ahead of the next team that even had a sniff in the playoffs. But then if you go to the Eastern Conference, the Philadelphia 76ers were the 14th seed at 31 wins. So Sacramento and everybody in the West would have been dead last in the East outside of the playoff teams.
Yeah.
Crazy, man. Crazy. Nonetheless, dude, I would try to throw that at you because I'm, top 10 NBA centers. I figured, could I convince you that Patrick Ewing was not supposed to be on that list? And
Patrick's probably the odd man. Pretty sure he's out. The accomplishments just don't average out, but still doesn't take away how great of a player he was, and took the Knicks to the finals and took him to a Game 7 against the Houston Rockets. And, he didn't play, but the Knicks went to the finals in 1999 as well. So Patrick had a healthy Patrick definitely would have been a tougher series for the Spurs in 99.
Dude, that would have been, I think that was the Knicks' best opportunity. Was that honestly, I'm shocked the Spurs won. I'm going to say it. I'm shocked.
Really?
Yeah. I had zero confidence going into that series. Zero. I'm going to be flat out honest with you. I was just glad to be there.
Well, I mean, you have the Charles Spiro, Mario Elie, which we had on the
Camby.
Marcus Camby on the Knicks.
So So go through that Knicks squad. Sprewell, Allen Houston, Marcus Camby, Larry Johnson, Patrick Ewing. Who else was on that team?
Was Chris Dudley?
Charlie Ward was their point guard.
The former Heisman, right, Rudy?
Former Heisman, Charlie Ward. I mean, that Knicks team was the equivalent to what we saw in Portland that one year with Steve Smith, Scottie Pippen, Rasheed Wallace. I mean, Bonzi Wells.
I think the difference was, Rudy, obviously, were the Twin Towers. When you don't have Patrick in the middle there, and you got Kurt Thomas and Johnson and Camby, although really good players, or good players, should I say, Duncan was on a whole nother level, especially because David was already with the back injury. You can see David kind of not going downhill, but definitely not being the focal point of the offense. Duncan was he was the guy. But yeah, if a healthy Patrick, it's a tougher series. I do think the Spurs find a way to win. We should do a segment of what if, and we change the Eastern and Western Conference winners, right? Or we kind of flip them interchangeably, and we say, well, what happens if this team ends up winning this series, playing this team? The what if, what happens if the Nets beat the Lakers in the finals with Shaq and Kobe? Like, do we think of Jason Kidd any differently, or, so on and so forth? But yeah, those there's
a lot of what ifs that we could go off of. There's tons of what ifs.
If Derek Fisher doesn't hit that stupid illegal shot,
Spurs win what? 8 in a row?
That probably doesn't happen. Manu fouling Dirk.
I mean, think about it.
2007.
Fisher doesn't hit that shot. Spurs more than likely go on to win the finals.
Wait, they played Detroit. That's a tough series, Rudy. The Pistons.
Very. But, I mean,
I don't know. We barely beat Detroit in 05. 04 prime Pistons defense. Do you remember those series?
No, yeah.
How, I
remember that.
The Spurs are probably losing that series and then revenge and come back, because as great as Duncan was, so we got to give some credit. That 04 Pistons defense was just completely suffocating. And it's still tough for the Spurs in 05. I mean, go back and look at those series where it's like 83, 84. I mean,
yeah.
It was barely anybody scoring.
You were on your hiatus when Derek and I talked about this. And maybe I'm going to, you know what? Are you going to be on tomorrow?
Yeah.
Okay. So maybe we'll talk about it again tomorrow.
Well, tomorrow's Valentine's Day, so.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll see. We'll do a show tomorrow. But yeah. I made a comment. I said, take away the text. Rasheed Wallace is probably the second best power forward, maybe of all time. Maybe. He's definitely top 5.
Well, Rasheed was a hell of a stretch 4, could shoot the 3. He was, especially in Portland, I mean, he was a great player. I felt like the technical fouls, the attitude, and
that's all that kept him
some
back.
Of those things I think kept him back of his true potential. But Rasheed Wallace, especially to Troy, I mean, it was such a really good player. Obviously a Tar Heel, and he was really good. He should have been better. That as great as he was, should have been as greater and even better than what he was.
If you take away the text and the attitude, he probably goes down as definitely top 5, more than likely top 4. Make the case for top 3. Makes a damn good case for top 2. Better than Malone. As great as power forward Karl Malone is.
I don't know, Rudy.
I mean, the original stretch 4. He was doing it before Dirk.
He was. I mean, what was him? Sam Perkins was that as well. He could shoot the shot. There's a few of those guys kind of.
Well, yeah,
but no,
a few guys jumped in there. But, I mean, they weren't Rasheed Wallace. Defensive. Now go to the defensive side. Effing hell of a defender, dude. So you eliminate
Carl. Yeah, I just think Carl was
low block. She could take you in the low block.
He could.
They both had mid-range.
Carl had a hell of a mid-range. They'll pick and roll. But.
Yeah, and they both can play defense. But what does Rasheed do that Carl couldn't?
Shoot free throws.
Outside.
Well, also shoot free throws. Carl, unfortunately for Malone in some of those big playoff games, Carl's kryptonite against the Sonics and a few other teams, unfortunately, was his free throws. And it's crazy to me, really, a great of a shooter he was. And some of those big moments, the free throws, the simple.
What the hell was he saying at the free throw line? I would love to get a lip reader to say.
You know, it's funny. Did you know what Scottie Pippen told Carl?
No.
I think he had missed it for he says, the mailman doesn't deliver on Sundays, Carl.
I remember that. Now you say that, I remember that.
So Karl Malone's kryptonite was a free throw. I think Carl. Do you think Malone? I think he benefited a lot, like much more than we think from Stockton.
100%. If Karl Malone doesn't have John Stockton, Karl Malone's career is completely different.
You don't think with Gary Payton or someone else, he's not?
No, because you got to give me guys that are in that era. Payton wasn't in that era. He was, but he was more.
He came a little bit later in the 90s.
A guy like Gary Payton with Karl Malone, no, it's too fast paced. He benefited more with Sean Kemp as his running mate. Guys like Detlef Schrempf.
I do think Carl benefited a lot, and so did. And think about this though, John Stockton probably could average more points, Rudy. I think what happened was, and what we talk about all the time, John Stockton knew his role.
Yeah.
He knew his role, and that's what he did. John Stockton was also a very dirty player, along with a lot of other guys who would, John would put his foot out when you shot the ball. John, you shouldn't be doing that. That's it's interesting. I mean, if you had a Mark Price with Carl, I think that could also work.
Man, that you're talking with my language because of the pick and roll with Mark Price, and he could shoot like John Stockton. I mean, pretty much the same player, with the exception of Stockton better on defense than Mark Price.
And
but
Mark probably a better. I'm gonna say a better scorer because John could score, but Mark was he could split the double team, could shoot very well. John was obviously different, but John could score though. I mean, if he had to, he would. But I think Price would probably work better than Gary's. Was more of a scoring. I felt like Gary was more scoring wise and a hell of a defender. Obviously, the glove.
Yeah, Gary's a defensive guy. Shout out to Sith, man. What's up, Sith? How you doing? Says he was a real baller, not Wemby soft. Yeah, man, what's good, y'all, man? I honestly, if I got to pick a player for Karl Malone today, Chris Paul would be a hell of a guy for Karl Malone.
I was just thinking about Carl. I think he'll benefit because Carl's not necessarily creating his own shot, right? That's not his thing. I do think Rasheed could create his own. He could shoot the ball and he could post up and he could do a lot of things. Carl, not the most gifted, but remember Carl if you remember, Rudy, early 90s when they had Jeff Malone, a little bit a different style of Jazz team. He gets older. Carl starts to get like buff, right? He gets bald. And because if you look at Carl's transformation, Rudy, go look at the photos. Yeah. He got big. I'm not saying he used steroids or anything, but I'm just saying Go look at these photos. Karl Malone was definitely in the weight room. And obviously some of Karl Malone's decisions that he did back in the day have really affected some people in light of how we view him. But he's definitely a country guy, that's for sure.
Yeah, Sith is letting us know that the Mavs are cursed. They just lost Gafford to an MCL injury. Big loss. PJ Washington, Derek Lively, still have them. Davis should be back relatively, I think, in a month. So Gafford injury is going to be terrible for them, but I think they'll be able to be okay. They ended up winning tonight. Karl was on that bread and water diet, swole as F. And
yeah, Karl was he got swallowed, dude. If you go look, and prime Karl was good, man. He won an MVP. You know, he doesn't
win that MVP if John's not there. I mean, that's how much John Stockton meant to Karl Malone, Gio.
Look, you still need good players. I mean, in order to be good, you still like Jokic. He has he had a Murray though. Murray's playing better. Like,
come on,
it's certain players. You got certain guys. You got to be good, but I do think Karl benefited from that pick and pop and those screen. I mean, it's just that offense of Sloan. And remember, Sloan did the same thing kind of with Williams and Boozer, right? A lot of that pick and roll. Karl, if you're listening, we'd love to have you on sometime.
That'd be kind of cool to talk to him because I definitely would ask him flat out, hey, how much did John mean to you in your career?
I mean, you could get a slick response, but
oh yeah, no, I fully expect it. But I mean, he's not the lead. He's not the all-time NBA leader in scoring without John Stockton. Can we at least be honest about that?
I'll say though, John is. I mean, his assist numbers are pretty insane.
Oh, John assist numbers never be beaten. Steals won't even be touched. I mean, you'd have to average almost 18, 15
That's why
assists a game?
I say when people talk down upon John, and I said, dude, if you guys only knew, he knew his role and he did it. Could he probably have scored more points? Absolutely. But was that always needed? No. Like they had a system in place, and you knew what was coming. A lot of picks. You knew Karl was going to run. It's all those things that they would do, and they were successful. 2 finals. But really, I love watching The Last Dance because it showed some of these other guys. You know, I know Michael poo-pooed some of the guys, and I thought Clyde Drexler was a hell of a player, but Mike didn't have to do him like that.
No, Mike didn't have to do that. We're going to talk about more of this NBA stuff as we go on. But before we do, earlier I made a post about the Tennessee Titans, who they should take at number 1. And lo and behold, Gio, Abdul Carter, star defensive tackle, Jeffrey Simmons wants the Titans to take Abdul Carter 1. I have no doubt that he should be the number 1 pick this year. No doubt for Tennessee. Now, they're going to probably end up trading that pick, just FYI.
You don't think Hunter makes sense?
Well, considering Travis Hunter came out today and said that he is going to go into the combine as a cornerback, not a receiver.
Damn.
That's a horrible move. He's a better receiver than he is cornerback. Horrible move. Horrible move. I'm out of my game after current Karl Malone, meaning we both don't play ball anymore. Shout out to Seth on that one. Joel Cologne. Good late evening, friends, and I guess good night to you. LOL. Don't worry, Joel. We'll be on for a long while. So
I don't understand. It's interesting to see. I thought Travis would really go receiver, but hey, if he can hone in, Rudy, and be a really good the thing about being a really good corner, I feel like nobody cares. It's like
I agree.
It's a very important position, but I would definitely have saw him at corner. I see him going probably to New England, Rudy. That's what probably makes a lot of sense. They already had that corner in Gonzalez, who's really good too over there in New England. You pair him up with Hunter, Mike Vrabel, is going to start kind of that defensive mindset there in New England. It's interesting, but hey, Penn State, what are they known for, Rudy? Defensive line. So why not get to, because the Titans, but Rudy, what do they do at quarterback?
So Tennessee probably, in fact, this quarterback class is so horrible.
I like Cam Ward though. He's interesting.
He is, but I'm going to just say this right now. I think the Giants are going to overpay to draft Cam Ward. They're going to move up to 1. They're not sold on Shedeur Sanders. Everybody says Shedeur. I think they go up to get Cam Ward at 1.
I still like Shedeur a lot. And I think with the right opportunity, the right system, he could be a successful quarterback. What does successful mean? A successful quarterback. That's all I'm going to say.
Mm-hmm.
So depending on where he goes, really, the Raiders get a quarterback.
Yeah. I mean, but you also have, this is the crazy part. Aaron Rodgers, Kirk Cousins, Derek Carr, Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, just to name 5 guys that are going to be out there. Sam Darnold is another one. I mean, you're going to have 6-7 guys out there that need jobs. So drafting a quarterback probably isn't going to be a high priority.
That means that you could see a potential really good quarterback going later, Rudy. 2nd, 3rd, maybe 4th round.
Yeah. I mean, I had McCord from Syracuse going to Tennessee in one mock, like in the 6th round, 5th round.
I mean, you guys, what? Jackson Dart's going to be out there.
He's a 4th rounder right now, and he should be in the top 2 rounds.
If I'm the Rams, it's the quarterback this year. Shedeur, Cam, very interesting, depending on where they go. If Shedeur gets drafted, Rudy, and he sits behind someone, that's not the worst thing in the world either.
No.
Right? He's sitting behind Cam is just an interest, but man, Shedeur, maybe I want him to succeed because I really have pushed him up, and I'm trying not to.
You're Daniel Jonesing.
Have Rudy call me out about Daniel Jones, Rudy. That I think I sent you that text. Ever since he went to the Vikings, it was all downhill from there.
Yeah, you did. It's Daniel Jones. Joe Colon says, hold on. I thought Travis was a better quarterback than wide receiver. Honestly, with Travis Hunter, I'd like him at cornerback, but the more I started to watch film on him, the more I didn't. I potentially had him as a shutdown cornerback, but then I started to see more game film, more college film on him. I thought, man, it's not physical enough. He's not going to be good.
If he goes to New England, though, I think Mike and the staff can set him up for success. So, because at least he's going to a defensive-minded head coach.
I agree with that. I mean, you could, but I think he should come in as a receiver. Titans on one mock draft, Gio, I had them trading, obviously, with the Giants. Giants move up, Titans go down. Number 3, they get Abdul Carter, but at 168, they get Kyle McCord from quarterback. So, I mean, you got that one.
Syracuse, I thought he had a pretty good year.
He's pro-ready, dude. Pro-ready. And then I did another one on Pro Football Network. Again, had them getting Abdul Carter, but at 102, getting one of the best QBs out there, pro-ready QBs, in Quinn Ewers.
Oh, Texas Longhorns.
I mean, and I know Joel Colon wants tackles. I mean, Savanai out of Arizona at 35, you're getting a massive guy there. Tyler Cooper from Minnesota, another massive guy, but also in the first mock that I did.
I like the Ollie Gordon pick, Rudy. I know he didn't have the year that we thought he would have.
But he can be a beast in the NFL.
He could potentially be actually a star. If Tennessee wants to actually do anything. But no, I like that pick, Ollie Gordon.
Yeah, I love that one. And then go to the offensive tackle side for the first mock draft that we did under the NFL mock draft database. I mean, you're looking at Cornelius out of Oregon there, Miles Frazier dropping way down at 180. So, I mean, Tennessee can come out like winners right here easily in this draft, whether they keep one or trade down. I like either way.
Kyle McCord had a good year. Syracuse program on the rise. For Tennessee, if they can figure out that quarterback spot, they got pieces. It's just really, it always goes down to that quarterback spot. And obviously defense is important too, but you got to be consistent. And really what I saw, Levis had so many memes this year, really. I mean, the memes of Levis, his face,
mayonnaise and coffee. That's all you need to know.
He ran into that poor ball boy. I think he tore his ACL. It's just absolutely ridiculous. And look, the Packers, they picked up Malik. Dare I say, when I saw Malik play this season, I thought he was pretty good, Rudy.
Yeah, hell of a guy. Malik Willis. Hell of a quarterback, man. And that's what I'm saying. You can find gems throughout the draft. And this year, quarterback, I'm not rushing for Cam Ward. I mean, I like Cam. He's probably my number one QB in this draft deal, but I'm not rushing out to get him. I'm like, okay, he's not a must-have right now. No quarterback in this draft is a must-have. The later ones are better.
I'll say this. Jalen Milroe, that is an
oh God, yeah.
I like his talent, Rudy. I know with Alabama and all that stuff, it didn't end the way he had hoped, but I think Milroe, I really think where he goes. I'm not saying Jalen Hurts, Rudy, but I see if he goes to a perfect opportunity, him kind of, and he can run. I mean, that kid can run. I think he's probably faster than Jalen Hurts. But Jalen Milroe is interesting. Jackson Dart, obviously Syracuse. Curtis Rourke from Indiana. Hey,
there's another one.
There's another one. Obviously, where these guys go, it's very important. But to me, Rudy, I think the most interesting guy out of all that list is Milroe and Shador. Depending on where, it all depends. It's all about where you go, who's your coach, who's your coordinator, who's your guy. Do they believe in me? You could be successful in this league. If you go to a team that they don't really care about you, we've seen it, Rudy, it's a disaster.
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly the way I'm thinking. And I will say this much. I know we got to go here because we've been on almost 2 hours. I don't think we've ever done a 2-hour show. But I'll say this. The perfect spot for Jalen Milroe that I would like him to go to, I like him to go to Miami, Gio.
Okay.
I think he fits the Dolphins really well. And you know what? They've got to start thinking about life after Tua.
I do like that move. You know, they run a very, I don't want to say gimmicky offense, but a lot of that is motion here, throw here, motion left, throw here. You know, it's a page out of the Kyle Shanahan, Mike Shanahan, though it is very different because they do lots of movement, short yardage, but deep plays down the field. I actually like that pickup for the Dolphins, Rudy, as a backup. But I could see Milroe in a lot of different spots if it makes sense for that team. If they have something there to work with, not a coach who's probably going to get fired.
Pretty much, man. Pretty much. We've got NFL draft coverage. It's going to be myself and Coach Gio. As we get y'all prepared for the draft here on Sweep the League, we always cover the first round of the NFL draft like we do with the NBA draft. So be sure to be on the watch out or be on the lookout for all of our NFL draft coverage. Best way to do is go to YouTube, search Sweep the League TV, hit that subscribe button. Appreciate everybody that joined us here. Harry joined in a little while ago. It's a great show, guys. Appreciate it, Harry. Thanks for everybody joining. We'll let you know about tomorrow. It is Valentine's Day. If anything, I might jump in just to do a little bit, maybe a 30-minute type show. I'm an old man. I don't really celebrate Valentine's Day too much. So that's just me. But we kind of celebrate it during the day when there's light outside because we're usually in bed late anyway. So or early. Real quick, but would the Dolphins be thinking about life after McDaniels too, though? He hasn't really done anything. That's what Gio was saying. Coach is probably going to get fired. So I like Milroe there as well.
I like McDaniels. I think, does Tua fit his offense perfectly?
No.
I don't think so. Tua's hurt. I don't know. If y'all want to go watch the Dolphins offense, it just come back to me. It's a lot of different movements. I think he'll prefer to someone who can run, who can make plays on their legs. Brock Purdy can kind of move, right? Like he can get out the pocket. Tua doesn't really do that. And when he does, Rudy, what are you doing? You're gasping. You're saying, dude, please slide. So if I'm the Dolphins, you look hard. Could they trade him? I don't know. There's a trade market for Tua particularly. I wouldn't spend money on someone who's going to get hurt. But don't be surprised if the Dolphins draft a quarterback in this draft, because you got to be prepared for anything that can happen to your investment.
So one guy to keep in mind out of Louisville, Tyler Shaw, is a quarterback that, honestly, Dallas, if you're listening, Jerry, you may want to go get you some Tyler Shaw this year.
You think so already?
I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Tyler, he's a good project guy. I think Cowboy fans will like him a little bit of Tyler Shaw. I'm not going to say, he's a savior. I'm not going to say he's the next big thing, but Tyler Shaw, I think, is a Cowboy QB. So I'm just going to say that. I'm going to leave it at that. We'll get into more NFL draft coverage, get the prospects. We can send the Dolphins, Joe Milton for Waddle. Yeah, okay. I mean, we'll get into more NFL draft picks here, but we got to get going. Man, 2-hour show. I've never done a 2-hour show with you. Not even back in the Rated R days, we even did a 2-hour show. For Derek Gervin, we'll get Derek Gervin back up and running here so you guys can have him back on and we can talk a lot more NBA stuff. Also, more talk with Coach Gio on the NFL draft coming up. Till tomorrow, we'll let you guys know if we'll be on tomorrow. If not, we'll be back on Tuesday to our normal time. Sorry about getting sick this past week. We were off Tuesday and Wednesday, so back tonight. But appreciate everybody who joined us tonight. Again, go to YouTube, search Sweep the League TV, hit that subscribe button. So for Coach Gio, for Hall of Famer Derek Gervin, Rudy Combish, and until we sweep the league again, we'll see you later.